All right, welcome everyone again for this red hot discussion on RAMP, which is coming next week, Monday. That's all I wanted to say. So I'm going to turn things over to Mark and the team who will be kicking this off.
Thanks, Melanie. Again, this is a red hot discussion, and we have a number of slides that we want to go through to give you all kind of an update of where we are today, where we've come from, and then a little bit more information about what's going to be happening over the next week and a little bit beyond that. And I'll be saying this a couple times. This was a big group effort to get us to where we are. Thanks to Melanie for helping coordinate a lot of the training materials, including this red hot session. There is another red hot session tomorrow, which is going to be kind of a high level walkthrough of taking a proposal at a very high level from development to all the way through kind of award setup. And it's going to be a little bit of a live demo. So if you're interested in kind of seeing the broader workflow process, tomorrow would be a good one. Yep, we record everything, so that will also be recorded tomorrow. So I'm going to go ahead, get started by sharing the slides. So today, again, what we're going to be doing is going through RAMP, Go Live support plan. We are not going to be going into the RAMP system, but really more general talking about what the plan is over the next couple of weeks. If you have questions, please put them in chat. Melanie and others will help moderate that, and we'll have time for question and answer towards the end. I'm not certain that this will take the full hour and a half, but we want to make sure that we give plenty of time for this discussion. So we're going to talk a little bit about where we are, where we've come from, where we're going, and then have a little bit of a couple informational points that we want to include regarding proposals. If you have questions on award setup or contracts, we'll have that. And we'll also be talking a little bit about the post-go live support. I think it's really important that we kind of remind everyone what's happening here in terms of RAMP. And RAMP is the name of the product that we're using. It's a vendor-delivered product from Huron. And the product from Huron is called the Huron Research Suite. And here on our campus, we refer to it as RAMP, which is the Research Administration Management Portal. And it's really the pre-award and non-financial post-award management system that we're going to be using going forward. And that's separate from the Workday product, which is our HR and financial system, which is going to be going live in a year from now. So RAMP's almost here. We've been working on this for quite a while. I know many of you have been involved. A lot of you have gone through the training, which is really very helpful for getting prepared to go live. And I just want to make sure that it's clear to everyone that there is a whole other project that's been going on for a while related to Workday. And we have been working to implement the RAMP component of the overall ATP project. That's going live next week. There will be a little bit of a period of high intensity support, maybe some very quick emergency changes. And then that team needs to shift its focus and start reintegrating the RAMP system with Workday so that come July 2024, everything will be then connected up with Workday when that goes live. If you'll notice on this slide here, where we are today and then go live are almost on top of each other. So we have had a lot of activity happening over the last several weeks. There's been a lot of instructor-led training and other resources put together to help support you all in terms of how you use RAMP and the business processes that RAMP supports. So it's starting. We're in the process now of implementing these 3 primary modules within RAMP. And I'll just very quickly remind everyone what they are. We have grants. Grants is the module within RAMP for developing, routing, and submitting proposals, as well as some of the non-financial post-award management. The agreements module is for creating and negotiating of funded and non-funded agreements. So funded agreements would be things like a standard research agreement or an award agreement that needs some negotiation before we can finally accept it. And a non-funded agreement would be things like material transfer agreements, non-disclosure agreements, data use agreements. Those types of agreements are often associated with proposals and awards. So the RAMP module allows us to kind of make those connections in a much better way than we're able to do now. And then there is a 3rd module going live, and we're not going to spend much time talking about it. And that's the export control module. The export control module is really for the export control office for managing the export controlled licenses and oversight and management. The grants and agreements module, as well as some components of export control, this is all replacing Whisper and Cayuse. So again, if you haven't heard it yet, Whisper and Cayuse are going away and they're being replaced with RAMP. So it's happening. And a big shout out to Kurt. He included this in a presentation recently, and I thought it would be really kind of appropriate to put it in here. It's happening. And I think it's really important for us all to recognize that it's going to happen. We're totally on track for this. And we have a lot of things in place to make sure that we can all remain calm and kind of focus on the important things that we need to do over the next several weeks. So to be clear, RAMP is going to be our new system for routing and approval of proposals and awards, and it's our system-to-system submission for proposals to grants.gov. So rather than having 2 separate systems with Whisper and Cayuse, this is all now going to be in one system, and I think it's going to be a little bit more efficient overall. Whisper is being decommissioned, which means that tonight, again, that is tonight around 5 p.m., Whisper is going to be shifting to a view-only mode, which means that you can go into Whisper, you can search for things, you can view attachments, download attachments, you can print Whisper records, and I'll come back to that in a minute. But you cannot create a new Whisper record, you cannot take an action on a Whisper record, you cannot request closeout of a Whisper record. Everything is shifting to RAMP. So we're going to be without an electronic system for 3 business days, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And I'll talk in just a minute how we're going to operate in that. So again, Whisper is not going away. You can still use it to bring up old records and look at past budgets or scopes of work or other related documents until at least through the time that Workday goes live, and probably beyond that. Whisper is a component within SFS, within our PeopleSoft system, and that is all managed by UW System. And again, Workday is replacing all of that. So it's going to be quite a while before Whisper is completely turned off. One other note here on this particular slide, just to remind everyone, Cayuse is still available for those in-process proposals that need to be submitted to grants.gov. And Cayuse is, we have a license until the end of September of 2023. However, what we're really recommending is that Cayuse be used for proposals that are currently in development or in process. If you have a grants.gov proposal that is due on September 10th and you have not started it, we're really going to be working with you to make sure that you do that in RAMP rather than in Cayuse. Okay. So how are we going to be operating for a few days without a routing system? So I want to be really clear here that as of about 5 p.m. today, and until Whisper is completely turned off, no Whisper records can be created or edited, or approvals, no action on approvals, none of that. It's essentially a read-only system. So during this period, so that's until RAMP is live on Monday, there's going to be, and there are now some detailed instructions on what to do if you have an urgent document that needs to be routed and reviewed and signed off and submitted by RSP. There is going to be a temporary routing form that is that will be available. It is not up now because you can still do things in Whisper, but it will be later this afternoon. And we are really asking for your assistance here. This is for urgent review and submission by RSP only. If you have something that does not have a deadline, that does not require it to be submitted Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, we're asking you to hold off and wait until RAMP is live, and then you can process your request in RAMP at that time. So again, this is for urgent or emergency routing and review only. So we're hoping that you all can respect that, really assess, is this something that is urgent or can it wait? If it can wait, please do so. So a little bit more detail on how this works. I'm going to say it again. The temporary routing form is for urgent review and signatures. And the signed forms and documents that are to be reviewed must all be sent electronically to the temp routing at RSP email address that you see on the screen. If the thing that you need the urgent review already has a Whisper record, and the Whisper record has not, and I repeat, if the Whisper record has not been sent to RSP, and you have a Whisper record, you can use the print functionality in Whisper, print that record, get all of the signatures as necessary. So for example, if you're in a department and the Whisper record was signed by the PI, but not sent to the department, you print the Whisper record, send all the materials electronically to your dean's office so they can sign off, and then they'll send it to the temp routing email address on the screen. If you do not have a Whisper record, and this is something that's urgent, you can complete the temporary routing form, print off the PDF, well, use the PDF and obtain electronic signatures and send all of the materials with really clear instructions to RSP. The last bullet point I'm going to say again, this is for urgent reviews. If you can wait until RAMP is live, please wait until RAMP is live. A couple other important points I want to make here about the cutover. So the cutover, the conversion between Whisper and RAMP takes several days because there's a lot of things that need to be teed up, and then a process runs to move the data between the two systems. and also move attachments from Whisper into Ramp. So this conversion takes several days, and we need to make sure that all of the data that's being converted is accurate and complete. So RSP, that's all of RSP, is limited in what we can do within SFS. So the processing is limited. And so we're asking for your assistance here to not request any changes to awards and associated projects in this time frame between now and Monday. So this would include any demographic changes on awards or projects, date changes, updates to edits, budget adjustments, award mods. It's really important that we ensure that this conversion is successful and that the converted data between what we're moving from Whisper and SFS into Ramp remains in sync. So RSP will not be able to process those requests. So it would be better to just hold off and not send those until much later, next week, the week after, or something like that. I'm just going to pause here, Melanie. Are there any questions that I should address?
I don't see anything pending. There was a question about when the PDF routing form would be available, and you mentioned it, and Kyle also mentioned later this afternoon. One question just came in. My department has no cost extension currently in status 3 assigned at SPO. Will this be completed in Whisper, or will RSP convert to a record in Ramp?
You know, that's a good question. Bridget, maybe, I'm not sure, I'm not 100% sure about the conversion.
Yeah, so Seraphine, the affected no cost extension people who are processing no cost extensions right now are actually trying to get them out of the queue. So some of y'all on the call might have gotten some from me, for example, for Julie Schrader on the DHHS team. So we're working through that queue. In terms of 3 assigned at SPO, I do not believe that that will be converted. Status 4 sent to sponsor will convert, but status 3 assigned at SPO will not convert and will need a new Ramp record, if I'm not mistaken.
The other thing I'll just add to that, to Bridget's comments, for all of these Whisper records, they're all there. They're not going away. We're not deleting them. So if we need to like run some reports and confirm that we have all of the things that need to be converted or in the process, we have access to all of that. And there are plans from the conversion team to do a lot of those things and have those lists for us in RSP. So we'll work through all of it together and figure out what we need to do. And I think, Melanie, there's a hand up.
Yeah, Megan has her hand up.
Yep. So I was just potentially made aware of this today. If there are outstanding approval requests, those aren't going to get transferred. Is that correct or not?
Yeah, we've talked about this before. The outstanding approvals are not going to be converted. So if it's assigned to you, you should have, and maybe you still have a couple hours to take some action on it and get it completed. But if it's something that needs to be done after the Ramp go live, RSP will be reaching out and asking for it to be done. We know what we've asked for. If it's things that you're asking for each other to do, you might want to make notes of that and just either one, take action on it now, make sure that you can do what you need to do, or just make a note, and then you might need to ask for process an ancillary review on the converted records next week or the week after.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I cleared all mine out, but someone sent a bunch this morning to a colleague of mine. And then I was sort of like, oh, wait a second. So, okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. I would say now would be a time to stop doing things because we're just a few hours from Whisper being turned off. So how are we going to know that this is all ready? Well, there is a crew of people working on this. There's the RAMP project team, Do It, and the Huron technical team who will be starting this conversion cutover process after Whisper is switched over to view only. There's a very structured approach and everything is sequenced and timed out with the whole conversion and cutover process. And they're going to be walking through that process and monitoring it all along and working with us and RSP as necessary over this time frame and validating as they're going through each of the steps, including on Saturday and Sunday. The project team has a number of things that they're going to be doing to make sure that once all of the cutover and conversion is completed, they're going to be going in and testing a number of things within RAMP, including processing some of the converted records to make sure that everything is ready to go. And this is very typical of how all of these major system conversions and go lives happen. So there's going to be email communication in the morning of June 26th that will confirm that RAMP is ready to go and it's accessible. So watch for that message. Once we get the green light, RSP will be updating and shifting a few things around on our website. The big thing I'm just going to point out on this slide here is that you can go to rsp.wisc.edu/ramp for everything that you need to know in terms of once we're live, including the links on how to, where to log in to get to the production RAMP system. So wait for an email that will come out on Monday morning, kind of giving us the go live. And that email is coming from the project team because RSP is relying on the RAMP project team to let us know when everything is ready to go. So we will be waiting for that email as well.
Hey, Mark, there's a
right.
question. Will the training portal, I'm guessing, will the training portal be converted to the real live version? So I can.
So
Yeah.
let me answer it this way. The environment that everyone is doing their training in right now does not go away. So those links for the training environment will still be available if people want to go in and practice in a non-live production system. I am pretty certain that what will happen at some point in the future, that test training environment will convert it over to be sort of a copy of all of the production environment. So in the training environment, you'd also have kind of real RAMP records in there. So I think that probably answers the question. If not, maybe the person can use their microphone or send in a chat. Again, some of this is a repeat of the Red Hot session that we had a couple weeks ago, but we thought it was really important to help remind everyone that in general, the award lifecycle, we're not changing that with RAMP. RAMP is just the tool to support the lifecycle of award management. So people are still going to be going out, identifying funding, deciding what they want to apply for, and they'll be going into RAMP then and doing their proposal development with the scope of work and all of the letters of support and the budget development. And then if it's being submitted to grants.gov, it will be submitted directly to grants.gov from RAMP, where you developed your budget proposal, or the whole proposal for that grant opportunity. If that proposal is funded, let me just back up. So the proposal submission it will either be done in RAMP if it's going to grants.gov, but if the proposal needs to be submitted to a sponsor portal, or maybe it's one of those cases where the PI needs to submit all of the application materials via email, that still happens exactly the same way. The big change is that the grants.gov submissions are done directly in RAMP. All of the award management, I can't quite see this. Trying to move things on my screen here. Yeah. The award acceptance and the setup, again, I just want to remind everyone that is done in RAMP, and RAMP is connected to SFS. So it's connected to PeopleSoft, and the award setup team, when they work with the departments to get those awards set up, it's moving information from RAMP into SFS, and then some of the information from SFS is coming back into RAMP. For example, the project IDs that get generated on new awards, that information moves back into SFS. Award management, billing, accounts receivable, other reporting and closeout, all of that is done in Wiser, with the exception of some of these non-financial post-award management items. Those would be done in RAM using those functions that are specific to those non-financial activities. And then again, closeout, all of that stuff happens in SFS. And as we move to Workday, whenever you see on this slide, wherever you see SFS, Workday is going to be our new financial management system starting next July. Okay. We've mentioned this in several communications over the last couple of weeks. The routing guidance that is on the RSP website is currently updated to reflect RAMP in a PDF that's attached to this RAMP resources webpage. But many of you might be using the little search tool that's on our website. It's kind of a little database-driven lookup tool. All of that's going to be updated with the new RAMP routing guidance on Monday. And as we update how we use RAMP and the changes in our business process, all of that stuff is going to be maintained on our website going forward, just like we've been doing for the last 35 years. I want to spend just a couple more minutes, again, going back to the data conversion and reiterating some of this, because there's been questions about what's getting converted. And clearly that question just came up a couple of minutes ago about some of the details. But in the big picture, yes, we're converting a lot of data, and proposal records that have a start date within 18 months that are sitting with the sponsor, those are getting converted. We're not converting super old proposals that have been out there in status 4 for the last 7 years, for example. Those do not get converted. Pending proposal whisper records that are in status 1 that have had an action within the last 90 days of the conversion date, which is essentially now, those get converted. So for some reason, you want a record converted into RAMP. If you created it today at 2:15 p.m. and it's still in status 1, that will get converted into RAMP. The proposals that are currently in the award setup process, all of those get converted, as do all of the attached documents on those converted proposal records. The Whisper ID becomes the RAMP record ID. However, anything new or any actions on those converted proposal records the ramp numbering scheme is followed at that point. So if you have a converted funding proposal that is with a sponsor in status 4, that's MSN 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that gets converted to ramp. That funding proposal record ID will be MSN 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But if it's being awarded, the award setup team will take their actions, and that will become an award record with the AWD ramp numbering scheme. Award records, we're converting all of the accepted, pre-closed, and the pre-award records. So those are statuses in Whisper and in SFS. Those things all get converted. And again, the MSN number of those records becomes the ramp record ID. So these are really the active awards that we have out there. They're getting converted into ramp because, again, ramp is a management system that includes non-financial post-award activities, continuations, carryover requests, and so forth. The documents on those already accepted awards, those are not converted into ramp because those documents have been converted, or they're already in preceptive content, which is what we use in RSP for document management. And any of those documents that are marked as public are viewable in Wiser. And I see, Kelly, you have a question.
Yeah, Mark, excuse me, I'm just wondering, so the records that are currently over at RSP that are in status 2, 3, 4.5 and 5, are they going to be converted? And if not, how will we know?
Yeah,
that we
so-
get to now build ramp records for like no cost extension.
Yeah, Kelly, yes. So records are they don't spend hardly any time in status 2. But there is a whole flow of what gets converted on that ramp resources page. If you go into the general section, there's a user or a job aid that goes into a lot more detail in terms of what gets converted. So all of those statuses that you mentioned of things that are essentially in RSP, yes, those all get converted, and it depends on, sort of, are they an agreement record or are they a proposal record? And they'll get converted either as funding proposals or as agreement records. So I would recommend taking a look at the ramp resource webpage in the kind of.
Yeah, I looked there, it wasn't real clear.
It's a flow chart, and if you walk through the flow chart, it'll kind of give you what gets converted and not.
But the no cost, I'm just trying to confirm this in my head. The no cost extensions that are over at RSP that have not been processed are not going to be converted, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, how are we going to know what records haven't been converted and that we need to go into ramp and put the information in there?
Well, I mean, so the no cost extension, I think Bridget can talk about this in just a minute. If you know the Whisper record ID, you can search for it in ramp, and if it's not there, that's a way to know that it wasn't converted. The issues partly with things like mod requests, some of them are not being converted, and the award setup team has they're working with our ERA team, and they're going to have a list of all of the things that they need to kind of either do a mod request in ramp that they'll just process themselves, or they might be coming back and asking you for things that are missing that we need to do in order to process a mod and things like that. So everything is kind of there. If we need to kind of pull things over from ramp, one of the things that our plan is, and this information is kind of on the, I don't know if this is on our webpage or not, but let's use let's use an example of something that's not getting converted because it doesn't exist, like an urgent request. This applies also for things that maybe should have been converted that weren't. We have people, we have some consultants that are helping us, and we will likely be working with them to say, hey, can you start this ramp record and route it back to the department so that they can kind of finish the thing that it was kind of in process that we didn't get all the details for. Does that make sense? So don't panic. It's all there, and we'll kind of all work through it together.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering if you were going to generate some sort of report to send to the divisions to say these are your non-converted records, and then we could send it out to the departments and say, you need to make a ramp record for this.
We could do that. And
I do have, sorry, Mark, I do have a list that I've been creating internally all day today, well, since last week, actually. So we'll have a list of all of these things, but whether it's something RSP is doing or we need to push out to campus, I guess is a discussion point, right, Mark?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't have any problem, redirect. You guys are going to be busy enough, and redirecting it back to the departments or to us to do the legwork on getting them into ramp. But we would have to know, because there's going to be hundreds and hundreds of them.
well, and yes, and Kelly, I think part of what Shelley's mentioning is that some of these whisper records, we don't need to do a ramp record necessarily, because again, the future's different and better. So instead of having ramp records for things that are just a mod request, it kind of cleans things up. So we might have a whisper record for a mod request that we don't need to do a conversion for, because the action is actually a modification request or a modification being processed. So I think what we should do is Shelley and her crew, Tamaya, Davina, and Mike, and us do a first pass on doing an assessment of what the non-converted things are compared to what got converted, and doing an evaluation to see if these are things that we need to share with the divisions, for example. Because I think that there's going to be a lot of things that don't get converted that we don't need to actually necessarily recreate ramp records for. It might be, here's a list of things that they're like a mod request in process. That's different than creating a ramp record. It's an action versus, oh, here's a record that should have been converted that wasn't converted. I think we're feeling pretty confident that there's not going to be a ton of those, but there probably will be some. It's not going to be 100% perfect. All right, so I'm going to kind of move on here a little bit. Let me just get through this data conversion stuff, and then we'll pause for any other questions. Agreement records. So again, agreements that are in status 1 that have had recent activity within 2 weeks get converted. Everything that's in process gets converted. And when I say in process, I mean those that RSP is working on now. And the attachments on those whisper records get converted into ramp. And again, the MSN number becomes the ramp record ID number. All right, so a couple reminders here. SFS, PeopleSoft, that doesn't go away until July of 2020, and ramp is integrated into SFS. So when the awards team is generating an award from a funding proposal, that information, the budget, the award information, that all gets pushed over to SFS. And then some information comes back from SFS and it's displayed in ramp. So they're connected. The ramp record IDs, so the award ID for a generated award, will be the new award ID in SFS. and it's going to be in that ramp format. So AWD, whatever the number is. The project IDs, though, that's what everyone uses for payroll and buying supplies and travels. That format, that's not changing. The way that those numbers are generated is not changing. And again, those numbers are ported back into ramp. So there's ways that you can see what the project IDs are. And Wiser doesn't go away. Still a campus reporting tool until we go live with Workday. And then we're likely to get a whole different reporting tool. Little note here, just like in Whisper, if we really try to use a structured standard list of sponsors, and we have processes in place in RSP to make sure that for all executed agreements and all awards that the sponsors are in our official list. The way sponsors get added to that list is by filling out the sponsor ad form on the RSP forms page, and that gets entered, and then the records in RAMP will be updated. So if you go into RAMP and you're trying to submit a proposal to a sponsor that's not in our official list, you can add it. If we get awarded, though, we will need to add that sponsor to our official sponsor list, and we'll be following the exact same process that we're using now. So I just want to show you, this is a screenshot that I took from our conversion environment where we've been doing test conversions and validations. And on here, you notice there is the arrows pointing to a converted record. As I said, converted records, the MSN number is the ID number in RAMP. New records, though, will follow the RAMP numbering scheme. So I just created a test proposal, and you can see it's got the FP number for something that's new. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Ask if there's questions, Melanie.
It looks like there's a couple questions again about conversion. So what are the criteria again that will not be converted?
Old stuff is not converted.
And then Jenny had a question, will a funded research agreement in status 4.5 convert only into an agreement record and not both an agreement record and a funding proposal record?
Yeah, it's an agreement record and a funding proposal record, and we in RSP will be going in and linking those. And it'll be a little strange for this conversion because essentially the numbers will be the same, whereas a wholly RAMP created proposal with an associated agreement record would have two different IDs.
Great, and then there's a question, and maybe this will, Bridget will bring this up when it gets to her section here, but Steve was asking, can you clarify when post-award non-financial mod requests will be handled in RAMP? I believe we were told last week that to start, only no-cost extensions will be done in RAMP. Do we want to wait until we get to Bridget to cover that, or did you want to?
Yeah, probably, Bridget. I think that makes sense, doesn't it?
She's given us a thumbs up. So we'll
Okay.
get to that, Steve. Thanks.
Okay, so I like the way Kurt and others have been reminding us about this evolution of RAMP, and that our go live is really not the end of the road. It's really I used this analogy the other day, it's kind of the yield sign, and then we take a little bit of a turn, and we're kind of on our own a little bit. We're going to be working with other universities that use the Huron products and working directly with Huron to make sure that the product continues to evolve to support large research universities like UW. And then there are some things that we'll be able to do within RSP, the support that we provide here in terms of maybe some additional reports, or if we need to make changes to a smart form to collect some kind of data that's required by the state of Wisconsin, for example. Those are things that we can do internally. So going forward, this product is going to be evolving a lot more than what we've been seeing with Whisper over the last 16 years or so. Okay. Again, a couple reminders here. This is new for everybody. We're all learning this and we're all getting comfortable and kind of relearning the way our muscles work. Everyone is quite comfortable in Whisper. They know how to do things very quickly, and it's going to take a little bit more time for us to get super comfortable with doing everything as efficiently in RAMP as we can do it in Whisper. And I guarantee you that things are going to look a little bit different next week, and we're going to see things that are more, everything's going to be real next week. And so looking at RAMP and how RAMP functions and reading the information on a screen, I think is going to be easier for us than what many of us have been experiencing through the training, which is a lot of things where you quickly type up a title, which is like, test proposal, and it doesn't have all of the really important information that we need to make assessments and actually move things through the process. But it's going to take a little bit more time because we're still learning it. So please work with your departments and you all internalize this, that this is going to take a while. Please don't be doing things at the last minute. If you can do them early, it's really going to help you, your divisions and RSP make sure that we know what we're doing and we're doing it correctly. And keep referring to the RAMP resource and training page. That's where we have so many resources, and we're updating it almost daily with new information. And again, we're not emailing everyone every time we're posting a new job aid or some new video that we just released. So please keep going back to that page and looking at those resources. I want to spend just a couple minutes talking about the post-go live support. And I think, Melanie, you may also want to just chime in a little bit here. So we have a whole crew of people that are all teed up to help ensure that we are all successful on Monday when we're live. And some of that is starting now in that we have Kate Mullen from the project team. She's actually here in the Park Street building. She's working with people directly in the office and answering questions. And we've shifted in this 2-week period from a classroom style to more of an office hours and ad hoc support model. And we're going to be heavily relying on that next week. So we're going to have these Zoom office hours during, once we go live, during business hours. So this is not a 24/7 Zoom cafe, and not on the weekends. And this link we'll be putting it on our homepage and also on our resource page to make it easy. And Melanie, maybe you could just kind of explain a little bit how this will likely work.
The Zoom office hours specifically? Yeah, so the plan is that we'll have a Zoom room. So it will be kind of my personal Zoom space. Everyone has one of those on your Zoom account. And so we'll have that linked to a variety of different web pages. It'll be on the RAMP resources web page. It'll probably be on the RSP RAMP page. And we'll be sending that link out probably via email as well. So when you click on that link during those dates and those times, you'll just drop right into the Zoom space. So there won't be a waiting room. You'll just drop right in and there'll be somebody there moderating the space. And then we also have some people who will be supporting that or on call. So if there's a lot of people who are showing up at a specific time, we can try to pull people into breakout rooms and get their questions answered that way. So actually, I just wanted to mention this slide. I think we had updated it more recently. The Zoom office hours will be 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. every single day. So not quite the full day, but 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. And we'll make sure that that's clear on the website as well. Yeah, so hopefully that kind of answers your question. So you'll click the link, you'll pop right into the Zoom room and somebody will be there to help support you.
Yeah, we also, as I mentioned, we have in-person office hours. So for those of you who want to actually just come in, sit down next to someone, have them kind of walk through this, also is super helpful for everyone in RSP. And thanks to Kate for being one of the in-office, in-person support team members. We're in the process of working out some details for a team chat support channel. And again, that information will be on our resources page and other places. And Melanie, maybe touch on the RAMP coaching requests. I characterize this as, this is not a method for urgent support requests, but maybe you can touch on this and give people an idea.
Yeah, so the RAMP coaching requests will work similarly to the RED coaching request. So if you've ever used that on the RED website, it's basically a way to ask for kind of one-on-one training time or an opportunity to talk to a subject matter expert. So when you click, the link is not currently live, but it will be come Monday. When you click that link, a web form will appear. And then you just fill out, you know, these are the questions I'm looking to have answered, or this is the help that I am looking for. And then I'll get an email and I'll be able to put you in touch with somebody to help you out. I get those emails typically within 24, 48 hours, I would say you would get a response. So yeah, I agree with Mark. It's not going to be your first choice if you're in a pinch and you're needing to get something done, but it's an opportunity. Another option for support if you're looking for just to sit with somebody one-on-one and you want to schedule something, as opposed to dropping into the Zoom office hours or coming by in person. We can set something up for you in that way.
And Melanie, I was wondering, would this be a way that folks could ask if they had maybe a group of departments that wanted to get together, the research administrators, and maybe schedule a focused discussion at some point in the future? Would this be a good mechanism for requesting that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. And then I think all of you know that there's a lot of notifications that occur within RAMP, and you'll see a lot of them coming from the RAMP at rsp.wstudy.edu email address. But we're also going to be using that as a place where people can email during normal business hours. This kind of replaces the Whisper email address, and folks can send in their questions there. It's a mailbox that's going to be monitored by our RAMP support team as well as a lot of others. And it's a good place where you can, questions that come in will be, seen by a lot of people and they'll get addressed. We've been talking a little bit about like the next couple of weeks, but I think this is really the kind of the rapid response support team time frame. And if it turns out after July 7th or into the next week that there's still a lot of need for more urgent support questions, we'll make adjustments to this as necessary. But as I kind of said on an earlier slide, just because we're going live and we have a kind of a very structured, high intensity support period, doesn't mean we're going to stop providing support on, July 10th. So let's just make sure that you're all aware that just like with Whisper, we're going to continue to learn it. There's going to be a lot of very knowledgeable people about how RAMP works across campus. You'll be able to tap into those folks as well. And then RSP clearly will be providing a lot of instruction and support going forward. All right. Jenny, I think you want to talk just quickly, a couple notes about proposals.
Sure. Hey, everybody, this is Jenny Bell from the proposals team. And I know that Whisper turning off tonight and the cutover over the next few days, and then RAMP actually going live on Monday is really what's top of mind for us. So maybe these couple slides will just be a better reference for you in a few days on Monday. So you can kind of put this in the back of your mind, because this is 2 slides about Monday moving forward. And you've seen these 2 slides before, so this is not new information at all. I was just thinking as we were preparing for this presentation, things that were sort of on my mind from our part 1 of this red hot discussion. And the first one was just a reminder about the internal budgets, that because RAMP has built-in budgets and smart forms, we're not requiring that internal budget spreadsheet, but we would still love to see that spreadsheet if you've already created it and you're using it internally. We know that different units across campus have different templates. We also have the RSP templates on our website. So if you're using that anyway, if you can attach it to the RAMP record, that will be great and really helpful for all of us as we are reviewing records and just getting used to this new system. And again, a reminder to check with your dean's office. There may be local policies about them wanting to see that additional budget spreadsheet. So just check in and see what's required there. And then, oh, you can go to the next slide, Mark. Forgot I couldn't advance. And then just one more point about proposals to think about for Monday is we're thinking about what's going to happen when we are moving records through the workflow and we're all reviewing these records and then moving them to someone else. Just sort of a reminder that when dean's office or divisional reviewers and also RSP reviewers, once they review the record, they have 3 options here that they have the ability to edit on behalf of the department before approving it. They could request edits from the department using that request edits or request changes activity, which has a little circle number 2 next to it here, which would automatically route the record back to the department. Or maybe everything's good to go and the dean's office or RSP will approve the record and move it forward. So those are going to be like our main ways of getting the records through the workflow come Monday. But again, you cannot worry about those 2 things for a few days as we get through our temporary emergency routing for the next through the end of the week. And that's all I have, Mark.
Okay. All right. So we don't have any specific slides about awards. I'm wondering if there are any questions that people would want to use their microphones. And yes, Jenny.
Thanks, Mark. So I put a question in the chat too, but I'll just ask. So specifically for non-competing continuations that require RSP processing in our current state in Whisper, can you just clarify for me those when we are, for example, I have a progress report due on the 30th, we would prepare that in RAMP as a mod and route that through for review and approval? Because I'm asking because it's not a competing continuation, it's a non-competing continuation. And those were not really discussed on the PDF with respect to conversion as well.
Yeah.
I can take this one, actually. So
Thanks.
if a record hasn't been created in Whispering, you're gonna start it post go live on Monday, it would be the create continuation button is on your award. So you would find your award, you would create your continuation, you would submit it just like you would a follow-up Whisper record. Except it's much shorter actually in RAMP. It's just a one pager that gets submitted for RSP to submit in Commons or wherever you might need their approval.
And if you did create a Whisper record, would that be converted if it's in status 1 and has been touched in the last so many days?
No,
That was my concern. Okay,
No.
okay. So would you advise in those situations not worrying about it and just doing it in RAMP? Because
Yeah.
it's cleaner and
It's a
faster. to go
pretty,
from the
yeah,
award?
and it's a pretty
Okay.
fast process. Mhm.
Thank you for clarifying that. That's been kind of a question I wasn't 100% sure on. Thank you.
Any other awards questions for now? I'm sure people will have 1,000 next week. Or maybe not, maybe it'll be 15.
There's a question that says, will RSP model budget still be valid?
I didn't hear that, Andrea. And you can answer it yourself if you know the answer.
Will RSP model budgets still be valid?
I don't know what that question means.
I think this might have been in relation to the proposals, the RSP template budgets. Or Jay, if you want to unmute.
Sure. Whenever I do a new proposal, I download standard budget. And is that going to still be a useful and preferred tool? Is that what you were talking about when you were saying you still want the RSP budgets if they're being used to be attached?
Yeah, I can answer this without getting into all the weeds about creating budgets. Yes, I was referring to those Excel budget templates that are on the RSP webpage, or maybe local templates that you all use. If you are creating one of those anyway, we would like to see that attached to the RAMP record. As you know, RAMP also has a budget smart form.
Will it be a one-to-one correlation to transfer the data from the Excel template into the RAMP smart form?
Not exactly. I mean, the standard budget template is really meant for sponsors that don't have their own budget form. So that last page is really what you'd send with the proposal. But I think what Jenny's saying for proposals, we're not necessarily, RSP isn't requiring that you attach it, but if you did it, attach it. If your dean's office requires you to have, a detailed budget separate from the RAMP budget, you should follow their instructions as well. When the award is made in after Monday, a category budget is going to be required in RAMP. So at that point, the spreadsheets they're useless. They don't do anything for awards, because going forward, all projects are going to have category budgets, detailed category budgets. And if that's a requirement for Workday, and we're starting it now on Monday. Did that answer your question, Jay?
Yes, thank you very much.
I think for the award setup team, I think the only thing I would say at this point at 2:00 on almost go live day is, if you have not sent an advance request, just wait till Monday. Is we have an influx, and I don't know if we're gonna get through them all, so just wait. But anyway, yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I'd reiterate what Andrea said. We're at 2 o'clock. And it's super nice outside. People might want to say, I'm going to go and enjoy the afternoon. 5 o'clock will happen. And then ramp will be here before we know it. And we can just start using our new system. Bridget, I think you want to just talk a little bit about the mods. And then maybe you can address the question about that Steve had that was related to the other non-financial modifications. Bridget, take it away.
Yes, thanks, Mark. So a lot of questions about post-award, so I am happy to be a part of this presentation. Thank you so much. So some notes on existing mods and award mods and management in RAMP. So existing processes for working with post-award is not changing as of RAMP. So yes, Karina and Steve, I am confirming what Angie Johnson had said last week and what we have also mentioned at College School in regards to that. So no cost extensions are the only award modifications that are going live in RAMP. If you've been part of the instructor-led training, as you all know, I'm part of instructor-led training as well. We do give an overview of those modifications that those capable modifications that we have. So read budgets, carryover, key personnel, those demographic changes that we would have the capability to do in RAMP. Those will not be selectable items as a modification request in RAMP at Go Live. So it's kind of that mirroring and uniformity right now with the current process. We wanted to cause a little bit of less disruption with this new system and make a splash. So we won't be having other modifications going live. However, we are aware that no cost extensions are currently going on in Whisper. So during the time that Whisper is down and we do convert to RAMP, and as Mark has said all along in this presentation, we do need that temporary routing form completed for no cost extensions as well. And then RAMP records will be created in RAMP once it's live for those no cost extensions. So records may need to be re-entered into RAMP if not completed by conversion. I have received correspondence that it is all modification records that are going to be converted in RAMP. So there will be more to come on that. And we are aware and we'll get reports. And as Shelley Earle has said from the ERA team, they have queries that can be run and things along those lines. Hundreds, I'm sure, of records that will need to happen. The big news, I suppose, for a lot, and this might be a surprise to many, but other modifications such as carryovers, rebudgets, and key personnel changes in RAMP will be live by the fall. That's our plan to go live for those. So what'll happen is the no cost extension. So let's say you're a department and you'd like to request a no cost extension starting on Monday in RAMP. Let's say your award ends in July and you want to get that out. Get that out the door starting in August because the link is live in ERA Commons and we can extend it. You can request that modification in RAMP. You cannot request a carryover. It's the same process that you'd be following with your post-award accountant right now. So the guidance documents have not been updated to reflect to the change processes. It's just no cost extensions are going in RAMP via an award modification request. So notes on award mods and management. Also, there's requests and then there's award mods. So the award mod requests, as many of you have attended the award mod training held by Allison, Sandy, John, thank you, John, and I. The department initiates the request, it sends it through for ancillary reviews and does their work. And then we take the mod at RSP and actually create the mod. So it'll take some time to do. But like I said, those will be shut off. The other modifications will be shut off, so they will not be selectable at Go Live on RAMP, and they will all go live at once we determine that. So but in the interim, if you have any requests, eventually those will need to go into RAMP. So in the interim, email your post-award account as usual, and then CC that RAMP at post-award so that we can make sure that we can get that entered into RAMP in the future. So Jill asks, can you confirm the process of emailing the RSP accountant? Generally, all our requests go through Whisper currently. It really depends, Jill, on the request that you're submitting. If you're, for example, you have a carryover request, that wouldn't be a request that would be done in Whisper. That's something that's done with your post-award accountants. No cost extension request, however, is in Whisper right now. So our RSP website does have the routing guidance and this really neat front page. Thanks, Kate. And Jenny, in terms of what you need and when, because it really says right there, like, hey, email this to your post-award accountant, or new Whisper record needed, or things like that, because we do require department dean's office review on some certain things. Any other questions in terms of award mods and management?
Bridget, thanks for that. I think Bridget and the whole post-award team and RSP is super excited about moving into using RAMP for a lot of these, I'll just call them the non-financial post-award actions. And we're going slower because we want to be really clear on the best processes as possible. So we've shifted just a little bit in the last couple of weeks. And thanks, Bridget, and the rest of the post-work crew for adjusting quickly, I guess. So more to come on this. All right, I'm gonna move on. If people have questions about agreements and contracts, Bob Kratzel is here to answer your questions or say anything that he wants to say about grants. And
I think you should have just left it as I can say anything I want to say, but that's fair.
You can say whatever you want to say, Bob.
Well, I don't really have much to say. I think we covered most of what we were talking about in terms of ancillary reviews or approvals aren't going to port over. So, you know, ancillary reviews may have to be redone once RAMP goes live for agreements. If you still need the ancillary review. And other than that, just that there's going to be some data cleanup, I think, for us once we do go live. So the documents are going to port over in large part, but some of the documents will have to be put into as the agreement document because it won't actually be uploaded as the agreement. One thing that I noted when I was looking at the slides again for what's converting. So the documents that are going to convert over into RAMP agreements are only going to be documents that are associated with fee-for-service, CTA, or non-funded agreements. So if there's a document, if there are documents for a sponsored research agreement, so cost reimbursable contract, fixed price contract, grant, cooperative agreement, IPA, they'll convert into the funding proposal, but they won't convert into the agreement record itself. I was just double checking that with a couple of folks because I just saw that a couple. Well, I guess as this meeting started, I just recognized that part. So.
Are there any questions for Bob? We want to keep reminding folks that we have a lot of training resources out there on the RAMP resources page. There's a really easy URL to use, go.west.edu/RAMP training. That's the same, takes you to the same place that we've mentioned already a couple times. And really all of the in-person courses that have occurred over the last couple of weeks, there's a recording for each one of those, including some of the courses have multi-section shorter videos for the training session. And you could kind of go through the course again, kind of walking through parts of it, just to, again, give yourself an opportunity over the next couple days when you can't process things in Whisper to refresh your knowledge on how to use RAMP and route things through. The page that is going to be our general RAMP page is rsp.west.edu/ramp. That's kind of the replacement for what we have now for Whisper. And then we have a lot of frequently asked questions that we are continually adding to, revising and updating. So the FAQ page is another resource that you'll want to continue to utilize. And then finally, pay attention to announcements and emails that are going to be coming from RSP or your dean's offices to you in the departments throughout the post-go live period. Because a lot of those are going to have tips and tricks and important announcements. Okay. With that, I'm going to actually stop sharing, and we do have maybe 10 minutes that we'll try and answer any other questions that people have. I have not been able to see any of the chat, so I hope that things have been answered or addressed.
Yeah, Mark, it was just, sorry to throw you under the bus, Sarah. It was just a significant carryover request for an award that has an fall end date. So the business process is business as usual, and that as the post-award managers develop the policies and procedures surrounding the other modifications. We just want to make sure that we have a solid process going forward before we turn all the switches on for those carryover requests, Sarah. So of course we will communicate that to the accountants so that they're aware, and then also to the departments with any changes in that.
I believe that the questions that are in chat were all answered, but if somebody put a question in and wants somebody to elaborate, or if you feel like your question wasn't answered yet, feel free to unmute or raise your hand and we can make sure we get all those answered.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. I think that's kind of what we're saying in RSP. And there's been so many people that have worked on this project for the last many, many months. I really appreciate the folks from across campus who have really contributed a lot of hours to this. And we had a really great core team on this, including some people who had been at other universities and have gone through this exact same implementation with the same Huron Research Suite and have lived to tell about it. And I think all of us, we will also live to tell about it, and we'll have other things to be anxious about in the coming months, maybe Workday. So I think maybe we can wrap up a little early.
Can I just
Yeah.
mention, so we had that large push of the RAMP courses over the last 7 weeks. We had over 465-ish people who came through that. We are pausing again during this go live period and offering those office hours and those other ways of support. We will pick back up with those RAMP courses in July. So if you go to the OHRD catalog, you can see we have another series of those classes for people who are interested in attending. And then for the future, RAMP will just be rolled into the regular RED programming. So our RED courses will be updated to reflect RAMP instead of Whisper and Cayuse. And as many of you know, we used to have our Cayuse class that was specific to, that system to system piece. And then we used to have just the Whisper course. So we will have, standalone RAMP courses moving forward as well. That will just be supported through the RED program. So if you have new staff coming on, or, we're thinking about 6 months down the road, we will still have these learning opportunities available. They'll just look a little bit different than they have during this last 7-week push. So just want to make sure everyone knew that that was also coming.
Yeah, and Melanie, I think also it's a great opportunity for people who want to get involved in the RED program to think about maybe in 6 months when they're a ramp expert that they might want to throw their hat in the ring for helping be a faculty on those RED training programs. So I'm going to put that plug out there, and there'll probably be opportunities coming from Melanie to get involved in those training sessions. So with just the closing minutes here, it's almost 2:30 on the last day that Whisper is going to be running. And I cannot help myself, but my beloved friend, Shelley Earle on the ERA team, I like sharing this little story back in 2008 when we went live with Whisper. We had to shut off our old system for the conversion, which by the way took 3 weeks. So all of SFS was down and there was nothing for 3 weeks. And she's very diligent and came to me and it's like, oh my gosh, you said that this was going to be up until 5 o'clock. And it had to, the whole old system needed to be taken down early. And I told her, I'm sorry, Shelley, there is a big snowstorm happening right now. We got like 15 inches of snow and Shelley lives a little far away. I said, go home. Go home. So I'm kind of suggesting it's a beautiful day out. There's probably not much that people will be able to like cram into Whisper. It's probably not worth it. It's probably just going to be more work to fix the thing that you're just trying to get done in the last couple hours. And I don't know if Shelley would agree with that, but it's probably worth just pausing a little bit, taking the next couple days to work on some other things that maybe refresh your training. Come Monday, there's a whole crew of people to help you. I would recommend continue to use the ramp at rsp.wis.edu as sort of a way to get support. The Zoom office hours, if there's an urgent need, we're going to be all hands on deck to make sure that we can get those proposals out the door. And that is our #1 priority. And I hope that we can all be gentle and gracious with each other as we all become experts in ramp. So with that, thank you all so much. We're here to make it all work. It might be bumpy, but we'll make it through.
All right, thanks everybody. Have a great afternoon.
You.
See you again soon.